Good morning. My name is John Carter. I'm the chairman of the Central Palm Beach County Chamber of Commerce, chairman of the board of directors. I would like to thank everyone for joining the Education Virtual Economic Luncheon. The chamber does a fantastic job in pulling together these luncheons. Usually we are in person and enjoying a great meal and collaborating, but for now, we're going to continue with our economic luncheon series via Zoom. So thank you everyone for attending. I would like to make all attendees aware that this event is recorded and will be posted on the chamber website at the conclusion of this event. It'll also be going out via Facebook Live. More importantly, these types of events would not be possible if not for the sponsors that support the chamber on putting forward these types of events. The presenting sponsor for today is the Retreat Behavioral Health, and our corporate partner today is PNC Bank. We also have some community partners who have sponsored us, who include Career Source Palm Beach County, Communities and Schools, the Education Foundation of Palm Beach County, and FP&L. I would like to move forward now and introduce Peter Shore, who's our presenting sponsor with Retreat Behavioral Health. And so I would like to welcome Peter into the webinar, and I will give a quick bio of Peter and hand over to you. Briefly, Peter graduated from the University of Utah in 1979, and he began working an entry-level position at a methadone clinic in New York. He worked his way up to become the CEO of West Midtown Medical Group, which was an addiction and infectious disease treatment facility with over 1,000 patients every day. Over the course of his career, Peter's held a number of positions in the treatment industry, and recognizing the urgent need for high quality residential services for substance abuse and mental health. In 2008, Peter took over the reins of a struggling Pennsylvania substance abuse facility, turned it around to become an advanced, robust provider once again. This inspired Peter to open his own facility, a Retreat at Lancaster in Pennsylvania in 2011, which included a 120-bed residential drug and treatment facility. The revolutionary Retreat model gave rise to a large national network of facilities, starting with that Pennsylvania site, and has grown into a family of locations in Florida and Connecticut. When Peter isn't working, which sounds like it's quite a bit, he enjoys recreational time with his family and outdoor sports, including skiing and snowboarding. He is a dedicated musician with a passion of singing and songwriting and playing guitar. Peter, we're not going to have any music today, but I will certainly turn it over to you to introduce the remainder of our panel today. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you very much, John. And thank you, Mary Lou and the Chamber and Emily for always being so gracious and inviting us to be part of these wonderful events that really give a lot of information to our community. And like John said, it's funny, I graduated college in '79 and I'm only 30 years old, but I think being in this field for as long as I've been in this field, and I've seen a big change. And when we first started, we were a substance use disorder facility, and we saw a big need for mental health services, especially in all our communities that we're involved in. And as we've grown, and what we've seen is where addiction is sometimes just a symptom of mental health disorder. And in the world we're living in today, with so much uncertainty and so many things going on, and with a pandemic, and with a country more divided today than we have been in the last 155 years since the Civil War. It's something that weighs heavily on a lot of people. And one of the things that we have accomplished and we're very proud of is really digging into and delving into what people's problems are so we can help them in the long run. We don't want short-term solutions, we want long-term solutions, and how we're going to help people live productive lives. So we've been very fortunate to have wonderful partners like the Chamber, where we can express ourselves. We have, I mean, right now we can't have it because of COVID, but we have very large events at our facility where we invite the community to be involved with it and talk about mental health with our youth, with our loved ones, and all different things. Just information is something that people really, they're looking for. They want to know what do I do if I see this? What do I do if I see that? So we want to be a referral source to our community, that people can call us, not just to get treatment with us, but whatever needs they might have. And we've been very fortunate that we've partnered up with a lot of different agencies that we're able to do that with. So that being said, events like this and having a forum where people can express themselves, I want to thank the not only the Chamber, but everyone involved in this and all the panelists today, all experts in their fields. The moderator of this forum today is someone I'm very proud of. I've known for many years, has worked for me and started as a therapist and became a supervisor, and now she is the executive director of our facility here in Palm Beach, and she's a wonderful young woman you're gonna see great things happen from her. And I'd like to introduce, and her name is Molly May, and that's not what she was born with. She married that and kept that name, but a wonderful young woman. And Molly, thank you so much for moderating this event, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say. Take care, everyone, and be well.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I have the pleasure of introducing our panelists today. Up first, we have Dr. Mark Everett. Dr. Everett is a native of Texas. He earned a doctorate of health administration from the University of Phoenix and a master's and baccalaureate of business administration from the University of Texas. Dr. Everett's career has spanned a period of 30 years, of which 18 years were in the healthcare administration, primarily in the nonprofit sector, As a public health administrator in Texas, he gained a wealth of experience and knowledge about public health and addressing health issues and health disparities across diverse communities and economically depressed areas. Dr. Everett has been with South University since 2017 and in West Palm Beach since 2019. Dr. Everett was selected as the Dean of Academic Affairs for Tampa and now serves as campus president for West Palm Beach campus. There, he provides overall campus leadership and resource development for 12 programs, inclusive of associate, baccalaureate, and doctoral level degrees. Welcome. Next, we have President John Kelly. John Kelly was named the 7th president of Florida Atlantic University in January of 2014. And quickly declared his intention to make FAU America's fastest improving university. The university has established a track record of relentless improvement under his transformational leadership, which includes doubling research expenditures, enrolling an all-time high number of national merit scholars, setting new records for private gifts to the FAU Foundation, increasing graduation and academic progress rates, and raising the profile of FAU's athletic programs. President Kelly began his academic career in 1982 as an assistant professor at Texas A&M University. 3 years later, he went to Clemson, rising through the ranks to become professor and department head by 1991. He was named Vice President for Public Service and Agriculture in 1997 and Vice President for Economic Development in 2010. During his 28 years at Clemson, the university advanced from 78th to 20th in the U.S. News and World Report rankings of all public universities. Active on the national level, President Kelly has served on the boards of the administrative head section of the National Association of State Universities and Land-Grant Colleges, now the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, and the American Distance Education Consortium. President Kelly was raised in South Carolina. He holds a bachelor's degree from Clemson and both a master's degree and PhD from the Ohio State University. In 2017, he received the Clemson Alumni Association's Distinguished Service Award, the highest honor for a Clemson graduate. Welcome, President Kelly. Next, we have President Gary Vonk. Dr. Gary Vonk is an Associate Vice Chancellor at Kaiser University, where he provides leadership over the university's flagship campus located in West Palm Beach, Florida. A leader in higher education, as well as a faculty member and student mentor, Dr. Vonk has taught at the upper division of university level in courses in business, management, and technology. He joined the Kaiser University organization in January of 2007 after a career of nearly 30 years in retailing and company turnaround management, where he served as CEO, president, and senior executive for half a dozen public and/or private companies. Dr. Vonk received his Doctor of Business Administration Entrepreneurship from Walden University. He also earned a Master of Business Administration from Florida Atlantic University and a Bachelor of Science in Business from San Diego State University. He has served on a number of boards of directors, including the Workforce Alliance of Palm Beach County, the Big Brother, Big Sisters of Palm Beach and Martin counties, the Palm Beach Sports Commission, and Palm Beach County Educational Facilities Authority. He resides in Palm Beach, Florida. Welcome. Next, we have President Ava Parker. Palm Beach State College President Ava Parker leads the county's largest higher education institution with a strategic approach emphasizing innovation, student success, and business and community collaboration. Parker is the first female president in the history of the institution, which opened in 1933 as Florida's first public community college. Under her leadership, the college is taking proactive, transformative measures to meet the evolving needs of our community and has recently added 2 new bachelor's degree programs and established a cross-cultural equity institute with a vision to lead institutions worldwide in research, development, and implementation of culturally relevant practices to support successful outcomes for all students. President Parker is engaged in higher education policy issues as a member of the governing board for the American Association of Community Colleges and the advisory board for the Community College Research Center, which is part of the Teachers College of Columbia University. Her leadership extends beyond higher education. She serves on the board of directors of Orchid Island Capital, as well as the board of Professional Holding Corporation, the financial holding company for Professional Bank. She's a member of the Florida Council of 100, the Women's International Leadership Forum, Leadership Florida Board, South Florida's Orange Bowl Committee, and on the board of our own Central Palm Beach Chamber. Before joining Palm Beach State, President Parker was Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at Florida Polytechnic University and served for more than a decade on the Florida Board of Governors of the state university system, the University of Central Florida Board of Trustees, and General Counsel at Edward Waters College. Most recently, President Parker was recognized as one of Florida's most influential business leaders in Florida Trend's 2020 Florida 500 issue. Thank you for joining. Next, we have Dr. Deborah Schwinn. Dr. Schwinn serves as Palm Beach Atlantic University's 9th president. She's an accomplished higher education academic leader, innovator, scientist, and physician. Dr. Schwinn served as Associate Vice President for Medical Affairs, Dean of the Carver College of Medicine, Professor of Anesthesiology, Pharmacology, and Biochemistry at the University of Iowa. Dr. Schwinn has an understanding and appreciation of PBA's deep Christian commitment, highly regarded academic reputation, and legacy of growth and innovation. She is an exceptional leader with great interpersonal skills and a person with a deep and passionate faith. She enjoys music and ballet and plays the violin. Prior to her positions at the University of Iowa, Dr. Schwinn served in senior leadership roles at the University of Washington and Duke University, where she was Director of Cardiovascular Genomics in the Center for Genomic Medicine. Dr. Schwinn holds a bachelor's degree from the College of Worcester and earned her medical degree from Stanford University School of Medicine. She is an accomplished educator and researcher and has published many articles and papers. Since 2002, Dr. Schwinn has been a member of the National Academy of Medicine in recognition of her contributions to science and medicine. She is married to Dr. Robert Gerstmeyer, a religious scholar and instructor in the Department of Religion at the University of Iowa. They have 2 adult children. Welcome. And finally, we have Mr. Keith Oswald. As the Deputy Superintendent and Chief of Schools of the nation's 10th largest district, Keith Oswald takes great pride in ensuring excellence and equity in education for all children. Mr. Oswald is a veteran educator who began his career in Palm Beach County as a teacher at Barton Elementary School. His passion to make a difference in the lives of students brought him from the classroom to numerous administrative posts, including Chief Academic Officer, before being appointed Deputy Superintendent in 2018. In his current role, Mr. Oswald works closely with the superintendent as a strategic partner in the district's commitment to increasing academic achievement at the 179 district-operated schools. In addition to this executive level position in the A-rated school district of Palm Beach County, Mr. Oswald enjoys active participation in numerous nonprofit agencies. Welcome. So I would like for you all, if you wouldn't mind, to kind of take 2 or 3 minutes and give us kind of an understanding of how you are handling the reopening of schools during the pandemic and just kind of giving a brief update of schools. Dr. Everett, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Molly, and also a very sincere thank you to the Chamber for the invitation to participate. I feel very honored to be part of a very distinguished panel. Surprisingly, I'm going to continue using the word surprisingly because a lot of individuals still do not know about South University, but we've been around since 1987, started out in Lake Worth, moved to the West Palm Beach area, and now located in Royal Palm Beach, right at the corner of 441 and Belvedere Road. We have a beautiful 70,000 square foot facility here, 2 buildings, and we house various programs from associate level programs to our master's in family nurse practitioner as well. Of course, we also have an online environment with South University overall, which serves about 5,000 students. Overall, we're about 10,000 students across South University. And with West Palm Beach in particular, we serve somewhere around 2,000 on an annual basis. And again, we're about 70% medical related programs that range from our PTA program, the vast majority in nursing between RN to BSN, our BSN, and our MSN program for family nurse practitioners. We also have a clinical mental health program, which is ACREP accredited. So we're very excited to be in the community and look forward to really growing this campus, which is what our goal is right now. South University has about 8 campuses that range from the Southwest in Austin, Texas, over to Tampa and Orlando, of course, here in West Palm, and all up through the Northeast to Virginia. So we're quite an operation. As far as the pandemic is concerned, without making it sound like a positive experience, it has been an incredible experience. An experience that we certainly did not expect, nor did we really, I believe, were we really prepared for. But in essence, the challenges that were put before us were tackled head on. And I'm very pleased to report that we've done quite well with our response. This included an establishment of various committees and subcommittees that worked on policies and procedures to get us prepared for the ultimate return to our campus. And most importantly was the implementation of technologies that we haven't used before in the past. So we implemented something called South VR, which allowed us to continue our operations even after March. And with successful implementation, certainly in April and even through today, South VR is a live, synchronous instruction modality that is coupled with our learning management system, Brightspace, and has been tried and true. And we're very happy to report that students are actually enjoying it. Our outcomes seem very positive at this point in time, and our future seems very bright. So this quarter is the very first quarter that we've actually invited students back to the campus. And of course, we are well prepared. We've exceeded all requirements by the CDC and beyond, and have been able to provide our PTA lab instruction with our professors on the campus, and soon we'll be expanding that to include our nursing program. So all in all, I think the response has been tremendous. It's been an amazing experience. It's been a challenging experience, but we're safer now.
Wonderful, thank you. President Kelly, brief update.
Yes, thank you very much. Just for those of you that don't know, FAU is a has 6 campuses along the East Coast. It's kind of in paradise. You couldn't hope to be closer to the ocean. 2 of them are actually deep water ports, so it's a chance for students. The main campus is 1.8 miles from the ocean, and we use that in recruiting all the time. But this has been a big challenge. The state does limit out-of-state enrollment for the in-state universities, and our state students have had a very difficult time. They have to decide if they're going to go home and take care of parents, if they're going to stay here and stay in a dorm, or are they going to work remotely. And so we had to go quickly, as everybody else did, to an online delivery system. That has been challenging, particularly for underserved students, the students that may not have the resources. We have about 3,000 students that are still on campus in the dormitories, and all those students we have to provide food for. So normally we'd have 30,000 students visiting the campus in a week. Now we have 3,000 visiting in a week, and that makes it a real challenge as well. I would say too, it's nice hearing your mental health counselor earlier today on the conference. Students are really challenged, I think, by the mental health side, and I wouldn't say just students, but faculty and staff as well. Everybody's worried about the future. Everybody's concerned about their own livelihood financially and as well as otherwise, continuing their courses, being able to graduate on time. Those are real challenges that I think are deeper embedded in people than maybe we realize. And so as I kind of push forward on things, I realize that we have to take care of debt service. We've got to do things like that. But I also suffer over the idea that our students aren't getting that traditional college experience. They're not getting to hang out with their friends. They don't get to go to football games or baseball games or basketball games. Hopefully the spring semester will be a better experience for the students. But when we have 30,000 and only 3,000 are physically really on campus, it's a very different kind of university. It's also a real challenge for the faculty as they try to continue research programs that they have. We have to follow all the CDC guidelines. So you can imagine being in a laboratory doing research and then finding yourself distanced across the room instead of side by side with a colleague. Also say a couple other things. We've been able to stay focused on the university's goals. Our goals were to become a top 100 university. We are now at number 136, so we're pushing hard on that. We also went up 12 spots. We're number 33 in the country now in social mobility. That's a really wonderful attribute where you're giving people from all backgrounds, all different races, a chance to progress and succeed at an extraordinary level compared to other universities in the country. We also had our College of Business go up 3 spots to number 22 in U.S. News and World Report rankings. So that's a very encouraging sign. The challenge now is how do you keep this momentum going when you really have to turn almost all your energy toward what's happening with the virus. So that's kind of where we are as a university. I'd say the energy is strong. But it's also a major challenge addressing individual students' needs during this time.
Thank you for the update. Appreciate it. Dr. Vonk.
Yes, hi, good morning, everybody. Proud to be here. Yeah, Kaiser's flagship campus, we're just part of a system of 20 campuses in Florida. We've been here about 5 years with part of a transition from Northwood. And I think that, the great challenges we all face are the not only the mental health that John talked about of our students, but the mental health of our faculty as well. And they face those continuing challenges that we know that they're going to be in the classroom. We've cordoned off our classrooms, we've cut down the class size and done all sorts of things. But it's still critical for us to be able to carry on that conversation with the faculty about the things that we're doing to ensure their safety as well. And so that's been an important part of it, and I think that we're proud of that. The one things about this is that as we continue through this semester, entire students body came back. We opened a brand new dorm at the beginning of the semester, so we've got another couple of 300 kids on campus as well. And what we've done is, I think surprisingly, is we've normalized safe behavior. And so when we used to think it was going to be tough for kids to wear masks, and we thought it was going to be tough for kids to be social distancing and all of those sorts, stay on their side of the aisle when they walk down the walkways, we've actually done enough barriers and masks, and we've cut down the size of the classrooms, and we've done all those sorts of things that we've really normalized that mask wearing behavior. We even have a small student group that are sort of like our safety patrol that have little vests on and they wander around. And when the kids aren't wearing masks, they ask them to put their masks on. So their peers are challenging them to be part of the solution. So we've had some fun with that. Our athletic contests have had limited participation, but we've continued with the NAI conference schedule that we've had. We have very limited amount of participants in the stands or visitors. But it's been a successful season for us from an athletic standpoint and continues to anchor the students to the campus because that's part of what happens. And really the travel, the team travel or the faculty travel, all of that has been a bit of a challenge for us to make certain that we're safe in that process. But the schools that are within the conference got together. We decided what the rules would be. We adhere to those rules. And so far we've been extraordinarily happy with the outcome. So it's mostly about how we can be prepared and then anticipate what's going to happen here in the near future in order to move to something else. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for the update. President Parker.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to participate in this education conversation today. As indicated earlier, I'm the president of Palm Beach State College, which is really our only public college here within our region. Our area is all Palm Beach County, and we serve our area with 5 different campuses. We are a non-residential institution, so it's been interesting as we return to learning or continue learning during the pandemic. It is that many of our students are continue to engage in remote learning, whether it's traditional online or the new or synchronous learning, which has become so popular now, where a student just goes to class at 8 like they normally would, except that the professor is online or on a computer screen, and they can see their, certainly the other students who are in the class with them. But what I say to you is a big part of what we do is workforce programming. So it requires face-to-face hands-on training. So many of our programs have come back to campus. In fact, in the spring, we kind of took everything remote, but by the summer, we had to start bringing back those face-to-face courses so those students whose programs have been postponed or put on hold, they could continue their programs. So think of things like things in criminal justice that are back. Many of our health science programs are back on campus. Certainly our welding and those really those programs that require you to actually work with pieces of equipment, your marine, automotive, all those programs are back on campus throughout the life of the college. Because we train so many students that work or folks that work in the healthcare and our first responder fields, we thought it was really important for us to ensure that we continue to produce students who could get out into the world of work and continue to support us because of the great need that we have here in the county. We certainly have a large percentage of our students who are here because they want to earn an AA and transfer to many of the great institutions that are here represented on the call, or to our own bachelor's programs. So many of that programming is remote. However, we do have lab experiences where we are bringing students back to campus. I can tell you that as we've kind of changed because of the pandemic, we found that by phasing things in, that's been the most success for us. So even as it relates to these face-to-face programs, we didn't say, okay, it's June 15, everybody come back. It was this phased in approach that actually allowed our staff to prepare and to get ready for the extra cleaning and sanitation, all those issues that are associated with having more bodies back on campus. This has been for us because our sweet sauce is to have smaller classrooms where we can actually attend to the academic and social needs of our students, but we're finding ways to get that done using innovation and new technologies to make it happen. One other question I did want to say, as far as our athletics, we did suspend our athletic programs at least through December. So we're not even allowing our training or our practice back on campus yet. So we have suspended all of our collegiate athletic programs.
Thank you. Dr. Schwinn, would you like to share your update?
Sure. Good morning, almost afternoon. So I'm the president of Palm Beach Atlantic University, which is a Christian university in the heart of downtown West Palm Beach. We have about 3,800 students total, with approximately 2,400 on our West Palm Beach campus, 200 or 300 in Orlando, and then the rest online or dual degree. And we have about a $425 million per year economic impact in our region. PBA's real sweet sauce is to integrate faith and academics. And we have a signature program called Workship that is where our students do community service as a form of worship. So it's called Workship, and they've put in more than 3.5 million hours of volunteer time since the school opened 52 years ago. So it's a really remarkable program. We did open fully in August, and we are in our 9th week of full 100% students on campus and in classrooms learning as normal. We felt that there has never been a more important time for the transformative education that we provide here at PBA than today in the pandemic. I'm a physician scientist, so we actually consulted with infectious disease specialists, and we tested our student body upon arrival to see who is bringing asymptomatic COVID with them from across the state and across the country. We were very pleased that we had a lower rate than expected. And then since then, we've been monitoring weekly. And again, the rates have stayed fairly low. And I give 100% credit to our students and their ability to really make this a normal part of their routines. We do hyperflex. So when our students are in isolation or in quarantine, they can easily hyperflex in. We do have a couple hundred students that have chosen to stay home and they're just zooming in to class synchronously. And then finally, I'd like to say that I think the reason we've had low COVID rates while we've had everyone back on campus is that we're doing a 5-question questionnaire. It's called our Health Alerts to all 3,000 people here, faculty, staff, and students every single day. And we have a bank of our nurses, our DNP program nurses who are volunteering and having part-time jobs with us, sorting through those and really putting people in isolation and quarantine before we even have positive COVID tests. So we've never had a healthier campus because you get in quarantine if you've got strep throat or if you've got mono as well, or just a sore throat, and then until we clear you. So, so we're full speed ahead in our 9th week. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald.
Thank you, Molly, and thank you to the Central Palm Beach Chamber for having me on today with this great panel. It's an honor to be here. A lot has been going on with the school district. Obviously, we touch all 4 corners of this county, and things are going quite well despite some challenges, right? So our school board enacted a number of policies. So first, just briefly about safety. So as you're probably aware, face coverings are required for both our students as well as our employees throughout Palm Beach County, as well as visitors. This policy, a number of policies allowed us to rearrange our furniture, literally, so that we can really socially distance on our campuses. And fortunately, with a number of parents who've chosen to have their students come back to brick and mortar, we've been able to really keep that 6 feet social distancing in every classroom except for 5 right now. So we're in a good place on that. In addition, when you come on a school campus, you're going to see that things look a lot different about how we walk through our hallways, how we sit in our campuses, how we learn. Technology has been a big part of that. So when it came to the technology upgrades, fortunately, because of the referendum, we've been able to have flat panels in every one of our classrooms. So those large smart boards have really supported this simultaneous teaching, which has been challenging, obviously, for us to get used to this new normal with over 12,000 teachers. Our teachers have really stepped up. Has it been hard? Has it been ideal? It has not, right? So how do we work through it? And so fortunately, through good technology, it's been better. And the experience is slowly getting better for our individuals. And then for our end users, our students, right? So those who are staying in distance learning. Since March, we've been working on significant upgrades of technologies from the actual device itself, where we've ordered over, close to 90,000 additional devices so we can get to a 1-to-1 ratio for our students. In addition, Wi-Fi, that has been a challenge. So throughout this time, we've ordered Comcast internet for a number, thousands of families, T-Mobile hotspots for those areas that are not covered by those particular areas. And then what's really been incredible is our partnership with Palm Beach County and many, many other funders to really work on an infrastructure to deal with universal Wi-Fi for our entire community. So that's happening out in the Glades, some places along the coast, which is pretty exciting that once we get to that point, we'll have some long-term infrastructure in place. In addition, going back to just the safety pieces, obviously we're working with our teachers and those who are really concerned about being back in brick and mortar, trying to make all options available. And then obviously the last resort, if they have to take a leave, so trying to make those remote work opportunities available. In addition, monitoring our enrollment. We've seen the greatest decrease in enrollment than we've ever seen since 27 years I've been in this district, 7,000 students that we're down. So obviously, we're working closely with the Department of Education and the legislators that will have a hold harmless for this first FTE round. But we know when it comes later that we're going to have to just really monitor those pieces pretty closely. But again, through great partnerships throughout Palm Beach County, a big shout out to the Department of Health and the Healthcare District, who have really working closely with us when it comes to safety, to ensure that when our students come on our campuses, that we're dealing with all of the issues quickly, so that everyone knows that they feel safe on our campuses. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Dr. Vonk, the first question is for you. So the campus closure in the spring caught a lot of schools off guard. What steps had you taken, or are you taking, did you take to handle the challenges that were faced after spring break when all students were expecting to come back and things?
Yeah, March 13th, they left. They mostly emptied out the dorms, and a week later, we were essentially in the midst of this pandemic. And I think it's interesting that we all learned quickly that how important technology was. And all of us operate in a hurricane zone. We always know that there's a potential for challenges with hurricanes come through. And so as a university, we've always had co-working with Blackboard in each of our classes. So any student that was in a regular traditional on-ground class also had a Blackboard application that they worked through on a regular basis, where they got their grades and we did attendance and all those sorts of things. So when we switched over to online the week after the vacation, the students just took it up online. We had about 150 come back and stay in the dorms, but in general, all of our students remained consistent with their courses, their 16 weeks. 97% of our kids that were in class on the 13th of March finished on time that semester. So we were pretty happy with that. We also focused on two things in the spring and quickly, and one was advising. We wanted to make sure that we had a great organization, a team that would respond from the students and the requests for information about what to do and where to go. And then counseling services, and our counseling services for the students who had concerns, family concerns, relative concerns. So we look closely at it. I think as we've sat around and talked later, our hurricane preparation helped us in our planning for continuation of classes when there's an event that took place that prevents our kids from coming to school. So we're pretty happy with it. And the students, and the numbers prove it, that they took it right up and moved on, completed the semester.
Thank you. And President Kelly, what have been the three biggest challenges that you and your university have faced in opening during the pandemic? Can you please unmute your microphone? Thanks.
Sorry about that. I'd say one of the largest one is when you're moving at a pace where you're building things and have things under construction, and you're also accepting additional debt service, obviously, when you're doing that. We're building a new dorm right now, 611 student dorm. We have 2 other capital projects underway. And when you're doing construction at a time where you're cutting other things, you end up being second guessed about why in the world did you start this building? Well, the building had been started 4 years ago in concept, and as you begin moving forward, it's hard for people to understand why new construction would be taking place at the same time that people are really concerned about whether their jobs will be in place. I'd also say that one of the other things has been, we have about 50 people on emergency management team. So I've been so proud of the way they've rallied. And you go from what was mentioned earlier, the hurricane preparation, but this is actually a similar preparation. How do you get ready for mobilizing people? How do you get ready to handle the aftermath? We don't know what the aftermath of this is going to be yet. or how long this is going to last. And as our financial resources dwindle over time for all the things we've been doing, we've been, of course, helped by the federal stimulus funds, but you run the risk that you're trying to decide on a regular basis, where do you invest the money to keep things moving forward, and how much do you invest? How many people will we be able to retain by the end of this? Those things, I think, create a lot of strife throughout the organization. As I mentioned earlier, that's part of the mental health problem, is figuring out as we transition who is still in the situation that they were in before and who is not.
Thank you. And Deputy Superintendent Oswald, I know that there has been, obviously, when talking about restarting people coming back onto campus, a lot of questions and concerns about what to do and how will we handle the seemingly inevitable when we have a positive COVID case. So within the school district, how are you handling positive COVID cases?
Sure. And unfortunately, it's happening probably more than we would like. We currently have 85 cases since we opened brick and mortar. And so we're working closely with the Department of Health and the healthcare district. So, and we're constantly updating our protocol. We're going to be updating again tomorrow. So obviously the speed of information for our community and our families is vital. They want to know what's happening on their school campus. So essentially, when a principal is aware of a COVID positive case, they work closely with the Department of Health to confirm that. So at that point, when we do confirm that case, we get a copy of that, if it's an employee or if it's a student. In most cases, we are hearing from parents first before Department of Health, because their data is lagging about a day behind. We quickly call them to confirm it. The principal will put a call out to the community of that particular school to let them know there is a positive COVID case on our campus and that the contact tracing has begun. In addition, what we'll be changing through tomorrow, we will alert a particular class, like if there's a positive COVID case in the classroom. And again, that contact tracing is started, and please monitor your child appropriately. So as we, in the next 24 to 48 hours, as we work through contact tracing with the Department of Health, we'll provide them everything from seating charts, from where students sit in the lunchroom, any other information that someone may have sat or been in close proximity, 6 feet or less, for more than 15 minutes, that information to the Department of Health. When the contact tracing is completed, we again will alert the community that it has been completed, as well as the classroom. And that the Department of Health, if the Department of Health did not reach out to you directly, you don't need to worry about quarantining. In addition, throughout that process, we're increasing sanitization of the affected areas that need to have happened. Again, based on the numbers that we currently have, quarantining has been relatively very, very low here in Palm Beach County, because we're able to keep that 6 feet social distancing in all of our classrooms, except for a handful at this time. So again, the quarantine that did happen were mainly on transportation or outside, maybe in athletics or something like that. So again, continue updating. And again, shout out to Dr. Alonzo. Again, she was on the phone with us this morning to revise our process again to speed that process up.
Thank you.
Yep.
Dr. Schwinn, you spoke earlier of utilizing the 5 questions to kind of be proactive in terms of identifying potential symptoms. What are you doing if you do have to isolate and quarantine an individual, and what are the facilities and provisions looking like for those students?
Sure. Well, we had the good providence of having a new dorm with 510 students open on August 4th, and we moved students in on August 12th. So that left 2 empty dorms. So when we have a case that's positive for COVID or symptoms suggestive that it will become positive for COVID, we actually move that student through a process that's been kind of engineered from A to Z, from their dorm room to one of our dorms that's currently not being used, that's been cleaned. And we then provide meals to those students. We've hired new residence advisors for those 2 dorms so that they can make sure the students have someone to contact. We have faculty that are automatically given the link so that students temporarily allowed in for hyperflex for their classes the rest of that day and the full time of their isolation. And then I Zoom with the students 7 days a week, every day at 5 p.m., just for 15 minutes. And those that want to can join me. And so I learn a lot, what's working, what's not, et cetera. And then the students that are associated through contact tracing with those students with COVID, we often either move them to a dorm separately, or if there's 2 or 3 of them that are suite mates, we just do that in their own suite. And then they're not, we again bring meals to them, et cetera. So it's working well. Thank you.
Great, thank you. President Parker, obviously one of the unfortunate consequences of the COVID-19 that we saw was the rise in unemployment. Can you please tell me a little bit about how the Palm Beach State College is focusing on rapid credentialing and focusing on those who are maybe finding themselves unemployed during the pandemic?
Sure. Thanks so much, Molly. We see that as a big part of our responsibility as a public college in our community. That is that we are to serve as the economic engine to really keep our county going, as well as we have a responsibility to our business community to produce folks who are qualified to go right to work, and then to our families to give them an opportunity to gain a skill or a credential that can land them a job. And so what we find is that in our community, which is built so much around hospitality, that so many of our residents are now out of a job. So whether it's that they actually worked in a hotel or a restaurant, or maybe they were engaged in some other type of career that was not pandemic proof. And so we think that we are here, or we are here to help those folks who've lost their jobs to retool and to find an opportunity to do something else. We certainly feel that the fact that they have had a rich career in another field is a great thing. And if you couple that with a new skill, it should catapult them into a new opportunity. We were very fortunate to recently receive a rapid credentialing grant from the Florida Department of Education, where they are actually gave us $1.3 million to work with citizens within our community and give them certificates and or additional credentials that they can earn within a year. And so that's, we've identified 25 different areas that we're going to focus on. And again, we are looking to ensure that we're talking to our business community, talking to those who attract businesses to our community, so that as we train folks, they will actually have a new job to go to. So when we have resources to do it, we have scholarships available for folks who are interested in making this transition. And we really see that as a big part of our responsibility here in the community to provide our residents with the credentials that can lead to gainful employment.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Dr. Everett, COVID-19 has changed so much already. You hear a lot of kind of the phrase of new normal happening. In your opinion, do you think that what the COVID-19 pandemic has brought will forever change the landscape of higher education at South and across all institutions of higher learning?
Absolutely, Molly. I think what you're hearing today is a common theme of all of us adapting to this pandemic and making changes on the fly, being responsive, being agile, and putting in policies and procedures in place at a moment's notice to ensure the health and safety of everybody, including our workforce, staff, faculty, and our students. But one thing that cannot change is the fundamentals that we provide every single day, and that's our quality education, credentialed faculty, qualified faculty, rigorous instruction. We cannot forego that at any cost. Being responsive to the community, providing programs in response to the community needs, working with our partners to ensure experiences are realized by our students. And that, of course, has been one of our challenges. But I'm confident that we will return, as many already have, to a new normal that integrates so many new things that we've learned about. Prior to COVID-19, we did not do live synchronous instruction. So we've invested resources, as many of the institutions have today, substantial resources to ensure the quality instruction is continued despite the virtual environment. So whether that's virtual reality, whether that's simulation tools through our learning management system, integrated through the learning management system, tools for instructors to be able to ensure that students are receiving that quality instruction. even policies and procedures related to our workforce. Prior to COVID, we had no telecommuting policy. Today, we have a telecommuting policy. Being flexible for our workforce that have families. Prior to COVID, of course, there was always scrutiny when individuals needed to take time off, and that seems to have kind of waned a little bit. So we're very responsive to our workforce and to our students that may not be able to come in or comfortable coming in. So we're adapting to this environment, and I suspect that will continue into the future. The virtual remote, the online learning systems that we're using today will most likely look a little differently, more robust, more interactive, more with more ability to, again, provide that quality instruction and never lose the rigor of our classes.
Thank you. President Kelly, you mentioned earlier in your introduction that your focus on the university goals has been maintained throughout the pandemic. Could you share a little bit about how you have been able to maintain that focus?
Yeah, so one of the things we did is recognizing, because everything came so fast, you really were reactive, almost totally reactive in the first few weeks in terms of trying to put things together, and everybody working so hard to organize themselves into this new kind of normal that we're facing right now. So we decided one of the things we really needed to do was to sit down with our board of trustees, not in a virtual setting, but in an in-person setting where you could see facial expressions, you could hear sighs, any of those things that might be either verbal signals or emotional signals as to where we were with our plan, what we intended to do for moving forward. And so we ended up doing an in-person meeting, obviously physically distanced, met all the CDC guidelines. But we took a whole day, literally, and spent time talking to our board about where we were, which things we felt like we had to adjust, making sure they were comfortable as a board with the adjustments we were making, but also recommitting ourselves to certain things that the board really strongly believed that we had to keep pursuing. And that was the race to excellence, our strategic plan. They wanted that not to be sacrificed in this process and not to be delayed in this process. So we went through the kinds of adjustments we might make. That holistic feel of having everybody on board and knowing our entire executive leadership team, all my vice presidents were with me at that meeting. It gave everybody a chance to really understand the problem we face, how significant it is, how steep the slope is, but also what we expect to accomplish moving through this. And for me, at least, that was very helpful. And I think for our ELT members, executive leadership team members, it's very helpful for them to understand where the board stood on each of these issues. Everything from fundraising and what can you expect out of fundraising to what do you expect out of the next class that's not yet even here? What do we expect about the upcoming freshman class? How is it going to look? Are we going to have out-of-state students? Are we not? Those kind of things, I think everybody reaching a mutual understanding was really important for us.
Great, thank you. Dr. Vonk, there are a lot of safety protocols that have seemingly at times changed very rapidly over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. Can you speak a little bit to how your team has developed and maintained the safety protocols to tackle the additional responsibility of safety and still maintain the campus?
Sure. As part of the part we discussed earlier about ensuring that there's a comfort level among not only students but faculty, we all got together, of course, early in March and got our team together. We're a Sodexo facility, and essentially doubled the cleaning staff and have hourly cleaning in every classroom. So when the class ends in 50 minutes, we have a team of cleaners that go through every classroom and clean all the flat surfaces and use antiseptic. And then in the evenings, we use UV lights and HEPA filters and all the things that would continue to clean the air in there. So when they come back in the next morning. And then we, of course, we had to address the same thing with faculty because generally we don't give the faculty a lot of space. And so we had to convert a couple of our classrooms into faculty offices so they could not only feel comfortable about having their office space, but also visiting with students. And so we looked closely at that and tried to understand that and the consistency that we needed to provide so that not only the students would see that we care about the outcome, but also that the faculty could feel comfortable that they could focus on the education that the students deserved. And it's been very, very successful. We're super happy with the commitment we've had from our team. And they continue to do that in our sports facilities as well. We do twice a day fogging of every room that has students in it. So there's a 99.99% effective antiviral component we use in the rooms twice a day that are used by multiple populations. So all in all, it's really about building a team of people that touch all the touch points, even where we have to have our temperature checked every time we walk in the building. Every student is checked every day. So we do the 5 questions, and then we do you have to have your temperature checked every day. We change the color of the bands. So if you don't have a band, you can't go to food service, you can't go in the office, you can't go any place, you can't even go to class if you don't have the appropriate color wristband on. So we've tried to, as I said earlier, institutionalize it so that it really becomes becomes the normal for students, and that's their expectation, but also satisfies their needs. So that's what we do.
Yeah, the concept of new normal, I think, has been
Yes.
happening across the board. President Parker, what opportunities and innovations stemming from this pandemic specifically can you see as being a benefit to the higher education sector and Palm Beach State College specifically post-COVID-19?
Yeah, I think as my colleagues have suggested, it certainly has introduced or encouraged us to open our eyes to new ways of doing things. I can tell you that just as we're having this conversation today, this is how we convene our meetings. And for us, since we have 5 different campuses, a lot of our travel budget was spent going back and forth between the different campuses for meetings. But now I think that this will certainly provide an opportunity for us to convene and make much use of our time, as opposed to spending time driving from Boca to Belle Glade, which could take you 45 minutes. So that certainly is one thing that's been positive. I think a second thing is that I realize that about 76% of our students work and they go to college. I mean, so they spend a lot of time trying to balance their schedules. And so what's been nice is that for that working student, this gives them greater opportunities to take different classes that would not have been at their fingertips if they had a job that was up in North County and the class they wanted was on the Boca campus. The other thing is that it's helped us to actually pool our resources, and that I used to have one or two of everything at 5 different locations. And now we've been able to kind of, pool those resources together so we don't have to have so many different individuals doing the same thing. So it really has helped us to really streamline some of our services and ensure that we are able to do more with less people. And so that's been a real positive thing for us. It also has been good for our students. So not only is it just that if you want to work and you work on one part of the county and take a different class, but it used to be that you couldn't take a back-to-back class if one class was offered in Boca and the other class offered in Palm Beach Gardens. Now this gives you this opportunity. So I think that while it is so important for us to have social interaction and social engagement with our students in the classroom, I think that we will have more remote and or regular online learning offerings for our students, because I think it will introduce this idea of providing a greater mix, because it's going to better serve the needs of our students who are working and or place bound because of no transportation, and or just the fact that this county is so big. I think that it will give us greater opportunities to provide service to a larger number of students and with fewer personnel or staffing to make that happen.
Great, thank you. Superintendent Oswald, I know myself, I've seen a lot of parents on social media kind of asking the question, is your child going back? Are you doing tele-education? And I think that everybody's just trying to kind of find what is the best solution for themselves, for their families, to kind of mitigate anxiety and risk. So can you offer a little insight into why the district may be looking for parents to kind of lock in the choice of distance learning or kind of brick and mortar for longer periods of time?
Sure. Our district took a different approach. Many districts that we saw throughout the country asked families to lock in to a choice prior to school starting. We took a different approach because of what you just described. People wanted to know, our parents wanted to know, what is it going to look like on a school campus? And that's hard to answer for a school in Wellington versus a school in the Glades versus a high school versus elementary school. And it also is dependent upon how many actually choose to come brick and mortar and how many choose to stay in distance learning. So we provided the opportunity to change that on a week-to-week basis. And now after families have gotten to see what that looks like, principals educating their communities about what it looks like on our campus specifically, we've been able to answer a lot of those questions for our families. And hopefully that they have enough answers to understand the safety precautions that have been put in place to make those decisions. So now being able to lock in for the rest of this first semester, which ends January 29th, will allow us to better prepare for safety moving forward. This week to week and potentially large influxes of kids coming, it's hard for our principals to prepare classrooms, cafeterias, et cetera, for safety measures. In addition, you know, we have a number of employees who apply for remote work. There are potential opportunities for those who have some challenges themselves, whether it's medical or family situations, to provide more opportunities for remote work. And then the other challenge you probably have heard about is that simultaneous teaching, again, which is not ideal. We have the opportunity to potentially reduce that through the rest of this first semester. Second semester would open up early January. And that would allow us to really deal with some of the challenges when it comes to state assessments. And again, those same additional issues of safety and to better prepare for what that looks like moving forward. You know, yesterday was the deadline. I can tell you that about 69,000 families have chosen to come back to brick and mortar, which is up not significantly, but I would say it's probably up about 5,000-6,000. So we do see, but spread amongst the number of schools we have, it's not that significant. Again, that will allow us to really address those safety issues on our campuses.
Great, thank you. Dr. Everett, you spoke, sorry, there's a fly. You spoke specifically earlier about a lot of the medical science focus that South University has. I know from Retreat Behavioral Health standpoint, we actually have several interns from South University, who are all great, by the way, who come in with us. How do you think the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the clinical experiences of these medical sciences that you are offering your students?
So it does indeed vary by program. I can tell you that our nursing program, the pre-licensure program, was probably the program that was impacted the most. There was strategic decisions that had to be made by our clinical partners, our clinical affiliates, our major hospital systems, and rightfully so. So quite a few have opted not to accept many of the students that need that clinical experience. So the impact to those students is really two or threefold, if you will. It could be a delay in their clinical experience, the ability to adapt to using simulation and tools remotely and virtually. That also impacts, of course, their ability to gain that knowledge and that skill set. So that then may lead to a delay in graduation as well. We've been very fortunate in our RN to BSN program, which is primarily community-based, because they were able to continue their clinical experiences with the help of our local health department. So we've been very pleased with the progress that was made with our RN to BSN program. You mentioned our clinical mental health, also not necessarily impacted. I think in today's environment, that is a resource that is absolutely necessary. In fact, South University has just approved piloting our own clinic in one of our locations in the Northeast. So we're hoping that will prove positive, not only for the students, but also for the community at large, so we can continue those counseling sessions for students in-house and also give them that clinical experience. For our PTA students, also not impacted as much. We were able to bring them back to campus sooner rather than later, and they were able to continue their skills development and their knowledge. So we were happy about the results there. So experiences continued. We brought them here on campus, so very little impact there. But I think we have to leverage technology in the future. I know from a simulation standpoint, there are rules and regulations and guidelines from various agencies boards of nursing, et cetera, on how much simulation you can use for or in lieu of the clinical experience. So there may come a time in the future where some of those rules need to change. I think we've been very fortunate that we have a great clinical simulation lab here. We've been able to leverage that resource. So I think as we look to the future, the implementation, the integration of a lot of the virtual activities need to be in place. And although we will always be reliant upon our partners for that quality piece, we also need to supplement that with virtual reality.
Right. Awesome. Wow. Mr. Oswald, I heard you mention assessments. So obviously in the year of non-traditional, I think there's a lot of people who have questions about, are we still going to be doing state assessments? Are we still using grading in traditional manners? Any insights into that?
Yes, it's a big question we get from many individuals. So as of right now, state testing is on. So obviously there's a lot of concerns from different individuals depending on their perspective. Biggest concern when it comes to the high stakes testing for graduation and for third grade promotion. Those are the biggest concerns with the potential of COVID slide. So we're preparing, and obviously, as we do always, our teachers are working hard, our principals, to prepare our students for these state tests. In addition, when it comes to school grades, they're still in place. It is on our school board platform, legislative platform, to request a waiver this year, to put a hold harmless year in place. We'll see how that progresses. But all indications right now is that state testing will still continue to occur.
Thank you. And then Dr. Vonk, international students, I think a lot of people have kind of talked about with regards to state students, out-of-state students, but international students in particular are having a really difficult time right now, facing challenges such as airport and border closures, travel restrictions. How have you and your organization, your school handled these challenges, and how are international students faring right now?
Yeah, we faced a number of challenges early on, certainly through the summertime as the restrictions on return travel from we have about 30% of our students are international students, lots of Eastern Europe and South American students. And we, what we did is we increased a significant amount of our communication with those students. Many of them are athletes or related with our athletic program, so our coaches were an important mediator between the students and us. And then we spent a lot of time with CVIS and our CVIS team to make certain that we were following the rules required for those students to come back. And then we began, of course, the transition to understanding what the potential was for the students to start online and continue the process of getting their education and begin to schedule their return at a date that's potentially later than the start of the semester. And we were very successful with that. We essentially got 100% of the students that were in those. When they lifted the restrictions at the airports, our students were ready to go. And then we really focused on on-campus activities because international students come to Florida for a lot of reasons. So one of them is the environment we live in, and that's pretty restrictive as it stands right now. So we've also, not only with the dorms, but we've actually built, finishing actually today, a pavilion in the center area. So we'll have activities on a multi activities during the week basis, a band on Saturday. Students won't have to leave the campus to have social activities that encourage their participation, not only of the students that live on the campus, but our commuter students as well. So we're about 50-50 live on campus and commute. And what we really wanted to do is make sure that those, not only those international students, but the local students as well had that campus experience that anchored them with the campus. So we're pretty excited about it. We think there's going to be some challenges in the next few weeks, understanding what happens for the Thanksgiving break for international students, because so many of them will make the decision to buy their tickets and say, I'm leaving on November 19th and I'm coming back on January 19th. And between then and there is the finals, 2 weeks plus finals and the first week of class. So we're working closely on helping them understand where we have some flexibility as they return from their trips to home and where they go. So it's been interesting, but for our international students, we're very, very excited about the return that they've made and the interaction with advisors, coaches, and all the teams. So it's been fun.
And Dr. Schwinn, international restrictions work both ways, right? You
Right.
have 3 Fulbright scholars with you right now. When do you foresee them being able to kind of represent your university overseas?
Great. That's a great question. You know, we have a robust Fulbright program, and it's sort of a marker for strong academics. But we have 3 that were supposed to depart in the fall this year. And so far, they're still on schedule to leave in January of 2021 for Bulgaria, Spain, and Burma. And then we have 2 students that are returning for a second year, one in South Korea and one in Bulgaria, to do a second year Fulbright, which is usually sort of the teaching Fulbrights. It's a very select group. And we just heard of a 2006 grad who has moved on. He's teaching another university who's going to go to Austria in digital journalism. So I think all of those folks will be going at some point this year. Hopefully, if we get our vaccine, it'll be sooner, but right now it's January.
Thank you. President Parker, Palm Beach State College has just received, you spoke earlier about a federal grant for over $3 million over the next 5 years. Can you share how this grant will support and create new programs to increase the success rate of your Hispanic students? Why are inclusive, diversity-based programs and initiatives so important to the overall success of Palm Beach State?
Ashwai, thanks so much for that question. First, I'd say, so when I spoke about the $1.3 million grant, that was specifically for rapid credentialing. And it was something that actually came to us through the Florida Department of Education. The Title V grant that you're referring to that gives us this opportunity to actually work with Hispanic students, because we are HSI institution, that is a Hispanic serving institution, that we are able to actually submit for this particular grant. And it's really cool because FAU, as our local university, is also designated as an HSI institution. And so we think it's so important for us to have these opportunities because as a community, we certainly are pretty diverse. And that is that Palm Beach County is pretty much 1/3 Black, 1/3 white, and 1/3 Hispanic. And so we think it's important that we engage in programs that really encourage and support our Hispanic students and ensure that their retention rates and their graduation rates mirror those of their colleagues and other students here at the college. So with the grant, we'll be able to actually work with our faculty and really ensure that they are deploying skills to support our Hispanic students. What's great about that is that the skills that they will gain as a part of their participation in our Teaching and Learning Center are also skills that will help them with all students. So that is a really good thing. It would also help us with financial literacy for our Hispanic students and ensure that they have greater support and greater assistance in ensuring that they not only have increased interest or increased awareness of the deal with financial issues, but also that we can find ways to ensure that they have financial support. And then additionally, we see this as an opportunity to help with our technology engagement with our Hispanic students as well. So we'll be looking at ways to ensure that we expand those opportunities to reach our students and to ensure that we're finding ways to increase their IT IQ as students here at the institution. And while Molly, I know you didn't ask me this question, but I do have to give Keith a big shout out because I have young kids and we actually return to brick and mortar. They go to Panther Run Elementary, and I can tell you, Keith, that it's been a very good experience for us, and that the way that the school district has handled it, just as for my personal family, has been very positive. So I know that you get a lot of negative news about the way things have been handled, but I do want you to know that we returned on the first day of brick and mortar. My kids are in 5th grade, and it has been a really good experience. So I didn't want to, well, I'm very excited about our grant and excited about what we'll do as an HSI institution and how important I think it is for our community. I have to give a positive shout out to the school district because of the experience that my children have had.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Appreciate that.
Well, and I think also, Dr. Parker, you bring up a very good point with regards to there's been so much confusion in terms of COVID-19. We've talked a lot about kind of people struggling with mental health during this time period, but even in addition to the COVID-19 pandemic, we are seeing really a lot more kind of unrest, obviously, with regards to just things happening in our culture and in our environment around us. And I think that really, the positivity component, first of all, I appreciate you bringing that too, because I think it's very important for us to acknowledge the fact when we are being successful, when we are doing things that are allowing people the opportunity to really flourish during this time. And I know, Dr. Schwinn, this question is for you specifically. Racial injustice is something that has been really discussed a lot in the last 9 months or so. How has your campus specifically moved forward with regards to those questions of racial injustice?
Thank you. This is an important question because the world hasn't stopped, even though it's sort of stopped in some ways with COVID. Racial injustice, unfortunately, has not stopped. And so this summer we released a statement where we committed to enhance dialogue on our campus. And we had a town hall in the summer, but we don't have very many students on campus in the summer. So we did this looking toward the fall, and also in the context of having a long-standing, at least 5-year program called Mosaic on campus, which creates educational opportunities for students to see and celebrate and explore diversity across our campus. And so this fall, we actually created a Mosaic housing option to enhance that conversation. We also created a council on intercultural engagement. And those of you who go down Okeechobee, you see a really big billboard, and it shows a picture of Dr. Terrell Bird, one of our ministry professors, who is the inaugural fellow for this council. And his role as this fellow is to really make sure that we're having conversations. We just had a town hall last night that was very engaging, and we've had different forums around campus. And then last but not least, we've really felt called to increase our scholarships for students of color. One of them, for an outstanding student of color, is named actually after Dr. Darrell Bird, since he's such a role model. But also we have an NCAA women's internship scholarship, and that's for someone who is a walk-on, not just a regular recruited athlete, but a walk-on. So we're trying to use all the different venues that we have being back on campus to be able to continue these discussions.
Thank you. Dr. Everett, we are 1-2 years down the road. Things have gone back to the old normal, maybe. What do you think the next new normal will actually look like with regards to the higher education landscape?
You know, I think if there's anything that has really come from this, it's our ability to communicate very effectively. And that's across the board. That's with our students, that's with our faculty, that's with our entire workforce. You know, prior to COVID, I think when I joined South University probably 3 years ago, and here in West Palm about 18 months ago, you know, the forms of communication that we use, the manner in which, the frequency of which was lacking. And I think we have done a 180 in that regard, as probably many of us have. And I think that's so important. So as we look to the future, even the near future, let alone 1 to 2 years from now, I think the improved communication with our constituents, our partners, our community at large is going to be so imperative and will be more robust as a result. I think our ability to be agile will certainly come to fruition. We're experiencing that now. We're learning about how to be more agile and responsive to, in this case, an emergency. Somebody before talked about us being in a hurricane area, and yes, absolutely. This, however, is like none other, and our ability to respond, put in policies and procedures in place at a moment's notice is going to be critical. And I suspect all of us have a newfound respect for that agility. I think the technology is going to be leveraged to a tremendous extent. So the combination of hybrid, obviously the brick and mortar will continue, leveraging blended environments that we use both an online component, a virtual component, a live synchronous component, along with asynchronous education and instruction is going to be critical to our future. And I think we're going to see more models popping up. And I would like to see more participation with our community partners as well in that environment so we can ensure that our students and faculty are receiving the appropriate quality instruction that everybody deserves.
Thank you. And President Kelly, what do you think your biggest takeaway of this transitional 2020 year of COVID-19 has been for you, your staff, and your students?
I think we've learned a lot of things that we wouldn't have learned if we hadn't been forced by the situation. So one thing that I kind of taken for granted is how many hours I spend in a car traveling to places. I'm not doing that right now. I used to spend an enormous amount of time going to Board of Governors meetings. It might be 4 to 6 hours away, either airfare or driving. And we're not doing that now. We're doing virtual meetings up and down the coast. Ava and I and others have to move back and forth across these counties. That takes a lot of time. And while you can talk to somebody on the phone while you're driving, you also are using a lot of time that might have been purposed in a different way. I'd also say another thing is I learned, and it really bothered me that I had not thought more about this. We had a lot of students who have no access to technology. And I know the K-12 system, I've been on a number of those conference calls. I know that was one of the huge things that you all done in Palm Beach County, which was really impressive. But we had a lot of college students that just didn't tell us they didn't have access to technology. But when you try learning in a home environment and there are 4 or 5 kids in that home, it is very difficult and very challenging for those young people to keep up and to have the sense of their awareness so that they can be successful. I do think we've learned that hybrid courses can work. It's advantageous to learn how to learn from a distance as opposed to everything being in person. That'll serve them well the rest of their life. I also think that I don't plan to build any more office buildings, because if you look throughout Palm Beach County, there's an enormous amount of vacant office space, I'm told. And knowing that, I think we can learn from the private sector that I think they've learned a lot of things that they do can be done from home remotely. And we may need to adapt that model instead of thinking everybody has to have an office before they can come to work. I don't believe that's true anymore.
Thank you. I would like to thank you all for being present here today. I think one of the things, as a person in the mental health field specifically, nothing about 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the other issues kind of that have happened this year, have been comfortable. But that being said, I think that what we are seeing is a real collaboration, a real desire to kind of work together and support each other throughout the process. So I appreciate your being here, and I would like to bring Mary Lou Bedford back.
Thank you so much, Molly. I really appreciate it. And I just want to thank our panelists. Great information today. You know, it's so important to hear from all of you and to see what you're experiencing, and so that we know out here what to expect and how we can support you all. So thank you all panelists so much. Molly, thank you so much for moderating. You did a great job. And as our chair of the board said earlier, John Carter, we couldn't do this event without our sponsors. So we want to thank Peter Shore and Retreat Behavioral Health for presenting sponsorship today. Also our corporate sponsor, PNC Bank, and our community partners. We had Career Source of Palm Beach County, Communities in School, the Education Foundation of Palm Beach County, and FPL, Florida Power and Light. So thank you all for your participation. I want to invite you all to join us November 18th for our Farm City virtual luncheon. And it's kind of special. We will hear from Agricultural Commissioner Nikki Freed, but we'll also have the opportunity to hear from a great panel of agricultural leaders, Paul Allen, Jim Alderman, Steve Basor, and our own chamber board member, Caroline Villanueva. So we want you to join us. And if all those who participate, you'll get a voucher at the end of the event to be able to pick up a fresh box of complimentary produce from our farmers. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And finally, I want to remind you all that early voting starts this Monday, the 19th, and it go to Sunday, November 1st. So if you're going to be doing that, make sure you do. If you go on our chamber website at cpbchamber.com, we can give you all the information, and the early voting is open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So we're just encouraging you all to do that. And remember, Election Day is November 3rd. So thank you all again to our college presidents, for our deputy superintendent. You all are amazing, and we just appreciate all your hard work and efforts to continue to make Palm Beach County a wonderful place to be. So thank you all, and everyone, thank you for attending, and have a great day.
Thanks, Mary Lou.
You bet. Bye-bye.